Welcome to Wadsworth History on Film, a program presented by the Wadsworth Area Historical Society and designed to record the oral history of Wadsworth for posterity. I'm your host, Cesar Carino, and today we have a fine array of people here from the Wadsworth School, Wadsworth what? Wadsworth School Alumni Association. That's what it is, the Wadsworth School Alumni Association, the very first effort to bring all of these alums from the Wadsworth High School together and to have a wonderful reunion. I'm going to introduce these people today, and I'll probably miss some of their names because I'll call them by their married or their maiden names for the women, and I'll even call the men by their maiden names too. But we have Alan Easterday, who, and Alan, you mind if I tell how old you are?
60 and a half. 60 and a half.
Alan Easterday and Jean Alcorn Getchy. And Jean, you're class of what?
1952.
So that means that you're past 40 years, doesn't that, Jean?
Oh, definitely.
A little bit before that. And we have Gloria Kramer Scheller. Gloria Kramer Scheller. And I knew her as Gloria Kramer. She's a little baby girl when I was going to school. And Gloria is also in the class of 55, a year after that. And we are going to talk about me because you already know how old I am. And on this side, we have Kenny Coppice. And Kenny, what year did you graduate?
1950.
1950, 50, 54, 55.
56.
56. And now we have the last one, and this is Marilyn Miller Gordon. Marilyn Miller Gordon. And Marilyn, when did you graduate?
55. Gloria 55. And I were in the same class.
Gloria and you graduated together.
Yeah,
and I graduated from Wadsworth High School in 48. As a matter of fact, we just had our 50th anniversary of our high school graduation reunion during the week of graduation. As we well know, the high school class that graduates or that celebrates its 50th anniversary then gets to sit with the graduating class from this year, and we were pleased to have done that this year. I'm going to ask you a few questions about yourselves first. Tell us a little bit about Alan Easterday, who you are, whom you married, where you live, where you grew up, where you worked, and whatever you're doing right now. You start with that one, and then we'll do the same thing with all of you, and we'll have to make that quick, otherwise we'll take up the whole program for that. So if you have any footnotes or any tables of contents, just kind of leave those out. Just go right to the chase. Alan.
I'm Alan Easterday. I was born and raised right here in Wadsworth at 125 Summit Street. I went to my entire school life in Wadsworth, graduated from Wadsworth in 1956, married a girl from Rittman by the name of Pam Scheffner. We have one daughter. She's married to an engineer in Cincinnati. We have 2 grandchildren. And I work currently working for NIS Financial Services.
And what did you do before that, though, Alan? You were working for NIS?
I worked for PPG for 25 years before they closed the doors.
That's right.
Put me out to pasture.
And you did some fine work at PPG. What kind of work did you do there?
I was on structural maintenance.
We remember that. Tell us a few of your relatives here in Wadsworth and where they live.
Bob Easterday is my dad. He passed away in 1990. Evelyn Easterday is my mother. She currently lives on East Street. I've got a brother Dennis, a brother Denise, and a sister Bonnie, all of Wadsworth.
And you have cousins too?
Distant cousins.
Distant cousins.
The other Easterdays in Wadsworth are distant relatives.
Okay, we need to establish that because we don't want them to think that they're all brothers and sisters. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but we established that because, as you know, what we're doing here is presenting the historical data, and then somebody's going to write the history. We want to make sure that the Easter day that we have on the program today may or may not be related to other Easter days. Let's go to you, Jean. Jeannie Alcorn Getchy.
Right. I married in 1954 to Warren Getchy. We have 1 daughter and 4 grandchildren. I moved to Wadsworth when I was 2 years old from Akron, Ohio. I have 2 sisters. My oldest sister lives in Groton, Connecticut.
Marie. Wellemeyer.
And Kathleen Maple lives in Greensboro, North Carolina.
And you go down to visit quite a bit, don't you?
Yes, we do.
That's where they're stopping off point to Florida when they go to Florida. Is that correct?
Right.
That's right. And what about other relatives here in Akron or in Wadsworth?
There's no one other than...
Just
Just
You
Jeannie.
people. Just Jeannie, okay. Gloria, you have a million relatives.
Yes.
Let's hear about some of them. Let's start with your own family first and where you were born and all of
Okay.
that.
I was born on the Barber Farm, actually in Barberton.
Right on the Barber Farm.
And we moved to Wadsworth when I was 7. I had started school in Barberton, and then we moved to Wadsworth in first grade. I've been here ever since, graduated from Wadsworth, and we still live out in Sky Park. I don't have a lot of relatives actually right in Wadsworth. Uncle John had the nursery up at Clark's Corners.
That's that other Kramer, John Kramer.
Yes, he had that, and of course I have the cousins there. But most of my relatives actually live out in Copley area, a lot of them. But we are working on our genealogy, and it grows by the day. We're up to 31 pages the last I saw it, and I was told the other day there's another 9 pages due to come to me. So there's a lot of us.
If we start naming all of the Kramers around here, it's going to take us forever. But how about naming the ones in your own family from your oldest brother on down to the baby?
Okay, my brother, I have only one brother.
Your father was Henry Kramer. Let's start with Henry. Okay,
Yes.
and your mother?
My mother is Arminta Snyder.
Mrs. Snyder Kramer.
From Barberton.
From the Snyder, the big Snyder family from Snydertown?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And tell us a little bit about that, because that's extremely important.
Mom's grandfather owned what is now Snydertown. It was
Right.
his farm. And many of the poorer people from Barberton were shut out of buying homes up in Barberton per se because of the price. So he started selling off a lot here and a lot there because he felt sorry for them. And Snydertown grew.
That's right.
So that is now what is known as Snydertown. I have one brother who is the oldest in the family. Then I have 6 sisters.
The name of the oldest brother is?
The brother's Clyde.
Clyde
Kramer.
He is probably close to 80 years old now, isn't he?
He just turned 74.
74? That's not too close to 80.
Yeah, that's close enough. And then Frida Morrison lives here in town. Elda Putt is in town. Erlene Prager is in town.
And we all know her as Joyce.
Yes, that's right.
Joyce Prager. And Joyce lost a husband. First husband, did she not?
Yes, in the polio epidemic.
That's right. And that was way back in the 50s.
51.
51. Remember, it was
Yes.
way, way back, shortly after we graduated from high school. And then she married
Howard Prager.
Howard Prager, and both of them worked for the Wadsworth City Schools
Yes,
for a long
they did.
time. A lot of
They
people
did.
will know that that relationship. And then after the
Ethel Thompson. And then Norma Henniger.
Norma Henniger.
And then myself.
And Norma used to work for Business Utilities.
Yes, that was a long time ago,
Long
too.
time ago. Very, very pretty girl.
Now, Norma now lives in Norton, but she's the only one other than my brother who's not in Wadsworth.
The rest of them are all here in Wadsworth.
And then there's Joan LeBeau.
Joan LeBeau, L-A-B-O, right. And Joan LeBeau is your baby sister.
Yes.
And she's probably, what now, 50-something?
She would be 59.
59. Oh, almost 60, isn't that right? Marilyn, how about you? We're going to start with your famous father, Mort Miller, who was the painter in Wadsworth. I mean, not painting houses, but the sign painter. Probably one of the very, very best I've ever known. And of course, today he would be broke because all of the things that he used to do by hand is now done by machine, by computer,
Right.
and so forth. But his work was so perfect that you would have thought that a machine or a computer had done it. Tell us a little bit about from there on down.
Well, actually, when we came to Wadsworth in, I believe it was 1944 or 45, my dad did not really come as a sign painter. He came to work for Eddie Goldstein.
And
Managed
the
G&H
drugstore.
drugstore,
Right, that's right.
And Gina and I worked there together as kids. And my dad also had probably one of the first hobby shops around. Had a hobby shop for a long time, but he still did signs at that time too. And there are still signs around that my dad will see that he did years ago. He's 81 now and still working. He still does, work for Mickey. I have brother Mickey. Mickey and I were a little closer in age, about 2.5 years. And a lot of people know Mickey from Wadsworth.
He's been in the automotive
in the car business, right? Started out with Jack Summer. He's in Canton now. Then I have a baby brother. And Marv lives in Seattle, married. And when my parents went to California in the 60s, Marv was still young, so he ended up on the West Coast. And we still, we don't see each other as often as we'd like to, but now and then. I married Jim Gordon, also from Wadsworth, the River Styx Gordons. And He had older brothers, Bob and Paul.
Paul's older than Bob.
Right.
Paul, Bob, and Jim.
Right. And we had 4 children, and my kids are all around here. The farthest away, the oldest is Greg, Gayanne, Gary, and Linda. And
I was Greg's principal many, many years ago.
Right, at the old Sherman School. That's what
many years ago.
Right. And they're all around. I have 12 grandchildren, and 4 of the grandchildren have graduated from Wadsworth High School.
You know, I hate to say this. I hate to say this of you, but you're one of the last people we want to see. Tell us why you are the last person we want to see.
I'm not sure.
Where do you usually stand when we come to see you?
Right. I work in the emergency room out at the hospital.
That's right.
So.
Matter of fact, you probably know everybody in Wadsworth because everyone has had an emergency at one time or another. I know fully well that 2 or 3 times that I've come down there with whatever, you don't even have to ask my name or you know my social security number, and I suspect that you know that for every person. An outstanding person. Kenny, if you promise not to talk too terribly long, Kenny, everyone who knows Kenny Coppas knows fully well that Kenny is a man of very few words, but we're going to force you to say all that we can today about Kenny, all the way from your parents all the way down to your kids. And you have one son whom they call KC because his first name is Kenny also, right? So tell us about that, Kenny.
Oh, I was born in Western Star.
See, I told you he would take over the whole thing, right?
On the old Cyberling farm. Shortly thereafter, we moved.
Which Cyberling farm? There's several of them out there.
Which one you say? I don't know. I only knew of one.
Where's it located?
On the south side of Greenwich Road.
And on the east of Hametown Road?
No, this is west of Hametown Road.
Hametown Road, okay.
Mm-hmm. And then shortly thereafter, we moved to Chippewa Lake and then to Seville. I went to the 6th grade in Seville. We then moved to Wadsworth. Went to Lincoln School. Graduated in 1950. Went to the U.S. Navy in 1952 during the Korean conflict. Served 4 years. Got out of the Navy and then went to trade school in New York. During that time, I married Barb Freed in 1952.
Barb Freed's a Wadsworth girl?
Yes, she's a Wadsworth girl.
Tell us who her family are.
Her family is the Don Freed family on Lindeman Road.
And spell that Freed compared to the other kinds of Freeds we have.
F-R-I-E-D-T.
Right, and we have F-R-E-E-D and F-R-E-I-D-D-T, and they are not related.
Right, correct. Mm-hmm.
And the Leatherman Road Freeds are known in Wadsworth for what?
Well, her father, Don Freed, he worked at the OIC. He was a foreman over there for several years.
Many people work for Don Freed.
Yes.
Ohio Injector Company, right.
Including the Gordons.
Including the Gordons?
They all work there.
That's right, exactly, including the Carinos as well. Tell us a little bit more about your children, starting with...
Okay, we had 3 children. Denise is the oldest one. She works for the Rohr Corporation. Tammy, she's the middle gal. She works for Bueller's. And then Casey, he's a elementary school teacher, I should say junior high school teacher. He teaches music out in California. Matter of fact, we're picking him up today at the airport at 3:54.
How wonderful. Casey was in the band in Wadsworth.
Yeah, he was in the band. He's also sang in the Glee Club choirs.
Very good musician.
Coming in to wish you a happy birthday.
Yeah.
Now then, we aren't going to sing this, but in unison, let's just say happy birthday, Kenny, today. Happy
birthday, Kenny.
Thank you.
We're so pleased that you're 61 years old.
Retirement.
66 years old.
66.
He also retired now. Now we have to get to why we're here, and that is the fact that someone had an idea sometime back long ago that maybe some of our people in Wadsworth were not getting together nearly so much as we ought to be getting together. Those of us who have been around Wadsworth for a long time feel that Wadsworth is the only place in the universe. As a matter of fact, the universe spins around Wadsworth. And yet, there are many people who moved in from outside and came to Wadsworth. They really didn't have that same feeling that those of us who are sitting around here today had. So someone had an idea of how to bring us together. Who had the idea and how did it start?
Ellen.
I'd like to take credit for it, but I honestly can't.
Well, go ahead, Alan.
A girl.
I mean, the girls will tell you in a quick hurry if you can get off track there.
A young lady by the name of Mitch Hagenbaugh suggested to me that we ought to have a reunion 2.5 years ago. And the idea kind of formulated in my mind from that point on, and I picked up the ball and ran with it, contacted this competent committee, and from that point on it just evolved into an alumni reunion for the classes of 1950 to 1960. That was held August 16th of 1997.
A 10-year reunion.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And you ignored those who came before 1950, didn't you?
Yes, I guess we did.
The class of 1948 was very well aware of that. Very well aware of that. And we will hold you accountable for that, Alan.
I'm humiliated.
You're humiliated, right. Alan, tell us a little bit about that first telephone call. Whom did you call, and what did that person say? Whom did you call? Was it Gloria? Was it?
I believe it was Kenny.
Kenny.
One of the first ones. Donna Maxon and Kenny.
Donna Maxon, who was Donna Freed. But she's not related to you, is she?
Yeah, she's Barb's cousin.
Barb's cousin, okay. That's an F-R-E-I-D-T. Donna Freed Maxon.
And I called them and asked them if they would like to be on a committee, and I explained to them what the goal was of the committee, and both of them graciously accepted.
Right. Then you had to get some women to do the work, right?
Yes. Carry the load.
Carry the load. Where was this anyway, and where did you have your first meeting? And that's extremely important because...
At
Mike's
on the Square.
Mike's on the Square. Now, 50 years from now or 20 years from now or whatever, that may not be there. Describe where Mike's on the Square is for historical evidence.
As you go west from the square, the road narrows down. There's a building that sits immediately to the north of that, just prior to the road narrowing down, which is known as
Mike's on the Square. It's a large brick building.
Restaurant.
At one time, what was there? Those of us who are older remember that was a furniture store there, a 3-story furniture store.
Springer's.
And Springer's Furniture was the last. Before that was after that was Wadsworth Furniture Store,
Right.
and before that was Finney Frock and something else, wasn't it? Many, many years before that. Now, the reason we have to do this is that we know Wadsworth as it is right now, but it will change. And we hope that it won't change so significantly that we can't recognize it, but we have to identify those things. Now, when you went to Mike's on the Square, do you remember what day that was?
I believe that was in February or March of 1996.
Of 1996. And what did you discuss? Who was there? Who were the people who were there?
Just about all. The current committee, the general committee, was there.
These people were there?
Yes.
And who else?
It consisted of about 21 or 22 people at that time.
Oh, big committee.
Yes. We tried to select 2 from each of the 11 classes. And that constituted 22. We had an alternate or 2 here and there. So I think there was about 21 or 22 at the very first reunion.
Wow.
And I explained to them what our idea was about it, what our goals were, and it went over. We had a good meal, formed a committee. We started with absolutely nothing, and all the expenses came out of our pockets individually.
They always will, too.
Right.
They always will. We had our 50th anniversary not too long ago, and for the first time in 50 years, we've had a reunion every 5 years. For the first time in 50 years, we have a surplus. I mean, a significant surplus. We always had maybe $5 or something like that. This year we had over $500, and we're going to try to build up a scholarship. Does anything like this come to the committee's attention? Marilyn, you're money-oriented and a very, very fine person when it comes to defining what should be done and can be done. Do you know of anything that the committee wants to do in terms of developing a scholarship or doing something really, really altruistic?
Yeah, that's one of our goals.
One of your goals.
To do that.
And how are we going to get that money? You're the money man, or money woman?
Money woman, yes. I have been making these bevels with the head of our Wadsworth High School Grizzly.
Let's take a picture of that bevel. Say that again now. Is that a bevel? Is that what you're calling it?
It's a bevel with an etching of the Wadsworth High School Grizzly.
Now, who does that?
I did them.
You do what?
I do the etching. I do the entire thing.
Ah, that's what I was getting.
I start with a plain bevel.
She gets the bevel. Now tell us about that. Where do you get the bevels?
I work at Leaded Glass Design.
Okay.
And so this is something that I am used to doing every day, any day.
Do you have to make the bevels, or do they come that way?
The bevels are purchased, already made, already beveled. I have to buy the stencil, attach it, or rub it onto the glass, and use acid to etch it on there. Then it's all washed away, and put the lead around it, and the hanger on it, and our red and white ribbon, and there we are.
Why red and white?
Wadsworth.
Wadsworth colors, right. And why the bear? Why the face of the bear?
The bear has always been the emblem of the Wadsworth School, so far back as I can recall.
Which bear was it?
The grizzly bear.
Correct. Now, this is what you are selling so that you can get money for scholarships and this
Right.
that nature. Tell us about that. How much is it going to cost, and where can we get them?
These will be $10. You can get them anytime. I have them made up, and you can get them anytime by calling anyone on the committee, or we will be selling these at the sidewalk sale in August, downtown Wadsworth.
Okay, so we do have that, and it's going to go to scholarships for Wadsworth High School
Exactly.
kids. That's wonderful. Now, let's get back to the organization of this thing. How did this committee come to be then? Jeannie, you have one of those very quiet little personalities who's very, very powerful in your quietness. How did you get involved, and why? Tell us about that.
Well, Alan called me and asked me if I would like to be on the committee.
Okay,
And,
then what?
I said that I would help and do what I could do, and here I am.
What kinds of things have you done?
Well, when we were preparing for our...
Everything.
That's a good answer, Alan, saying everything, because you know you're going to ask him again this next year. So go ahead, Jeannie, tell us what you did.
Well, basically, I was in charge of decorations, and with the help of the committee and all, why we gathered together, and I was in charge of helping to decorate the hall.
Jeannie, you know, while we have you here, how about giving a little pitch for the Wadsworth Area Historical Society, because you are, what is your position on the Wadsworth Area Historical
I'm
Society?
on the board.
She's
Board
on
of
the board.
directors.
She's the board of directors of the Wadsworth Area Historical Society, which of course presents this program on a regular basis. Jeannie, tell us a little bit about the Wadsworth Area Historical Society and your involvement in that, and why you have become very much a part of the society.
Well, I joined it for several reasons. I've lived in Wadsworth for 62 years, and they were having a dinner, and they asked me if I could help with it and donate some food, so that's how I got involved.
That's what Jeannie is like. I mean, you ask her to do something, the next thing you know, she's right there doing most of it and doing a very, very fine job. You know, the other thing that we need to really promote here is the fact that the studio, where we're taking this this program right now, where we're taping this program, the studio also requires a lot of the good volunteers to run cameras and things like that. So if anyone has that kind of desire, Kenny, you're retired now. You'd be a good man to run the cameras, wouldn't you?
I don't know. I never thought about it.
Well, we'll talk about that right after the show, because I think that you'd be excellent in doing that. I want to go over here to Gloria once again with these things. How long does it take you to make those?
It takes about 15 minutes from beginning to end to make one.
15 minutes, that's all?
Mm-hmm. For one.
That's wonderful.
But for the reunion, I made 370.
370 of them.
Each person got
And
one who
each
bought it
person
ticket.
got free of charge?
At the reunion, because it was included in their reunion price.
I hope you numbered them, because some of these reunion people are going to go down to the sidewalk sale and start selling them.
It was a table favor.
They are just beautiful. They're very, very well done. Kenny, when Alan called you, knowing how your personality works, very, very quietly, but do a lot of thinking, what was your dream for the reunion? What was your dream? What did you think was going to happen?
Well, I was hoping this would snowball, which it did. We had a great turnout for
How many people came?
Close to 350.
Of course, all from the class of 1950 to 1960.
Yes.
Of course.
If you would have included some of the other ones, you would have had double that amount.
Probably, maybe
Couldn't accommodate them.
Well, we would have found a place. Where did you have it?
Anthony's.
Anthony's in Manchester
At
Road.
Anthony's in Manchester Road, and you had 300 people there.
Yeah,
That
350.
is wonderful.
We had one
Now-
teacher.
And what, one teacher?
He called and asked if he
Who
could
was it?
come. Bob Weaver, Robert Weaver.
Yes, I remember him very well, but he was from Barberton, wasn't
Yes.
he?
Yes.
But how did he happen to get there?
He saw some promotional thing about the
But he wasn't a Wadsworth teacher, was he?
Yes, he
Yes, he was.
When did he teach in Wadsworth? He was a
Yeah.
principal in Barberton.
I had him in the 8th grade.
I think he was history and government
I believe, yes.
Is that right?
in the early 50s.
I've known Bob for forever, and I always thought he was in Barberton. He was a principal in Barberton.
He still
It
lives
happened to
there.
be his 53rd wedding anniversary that night.
Well, that was good. A little cheap way of getting out of a dinner for his wife. Jeannie, when you became involved and you did all the decorations and so forth, what theme did you use? I think that would be important for historians to know the first theme that we use for decorations.
Well, I don't really know how to answer that, the theme. It was agreed upon. We wanted something to be different. I think we had just agreed on red and white balloons, the colors of the Wadsworth High School.
Red and white balloons. Anything else?
And we had the medallions beside.
Which were on the tables for each person.
And we had, they decorated according to our colors, and it was just all around red and white. Am I correct?
Yeah, I think the program cover was the biggest thing that we went through, the design.
Yes.
Who did the design of the program cover?
Well, I was on that committee, but I didn't have the bright idea of using the alma mater, just a light copy of the alma mater, then with the writing
nice.
on the top.
I think really Alan did.
I think he kind of put the program cover together then.
I think that was
on
basically his
computer.
project.
I used my sister's input, Bonnie. She had to
Bonnie knows how to do that, doesn't she?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, she's very good at that. What about the people who came? What was their attitude? What was the electricity? What was the energy that came out of that? Kenny, how did you feel about the energy that came out of there?
Well, I know myself, I saw a lot of people I hadn't seen in a long time. We had classmates from North Carolina, Texas that came, and everybody just had a great time and want to do it again.
Now, what did you have people just sitting at various tables? Is that what you did?
Yes, you could sit.
In other words, any table that you wanted to, you had to sit with your own class?
No, you could sit anywhere.
And then did you have people from other classes too?
Yeah, yes, we did.
And did you recognize anyone who was 5, 10 years younger than you?
A few.
See, we always recognize the older people because, you know, we look up to them, but they don't know who we are. I'm interviewing a person later on, and I've known him so long as I've known anyone, and he happens to be about 15 years older than I, but I've known him. And he said, "Now who are you?" And I told him, and I said, "Oh, I've never heard of you." At least he could have said something like, "Oh,
Where's he been?"
I kind of remember, but no." But he said, "I've never heard of you." So to give myself a little bit of confidence, I said, "Well, surely because." You're much older than I am, so it doesn't make any difference. Not a lot of people your age, so I guess I got told that he didn't know who I was, which is perfectly okay. When we had the dinner over at Anthony's, we opened up probably the entire banquet room for that, did we not? We have 350. That's a lot of people. Who was there to greet them, and how did you greet them? Did you have name tags? Did you have anything at all which identified their classes? How did you do that? Who did that? Who did the name tags, and who greeted them?
This was a committee effort, and all of that was taken care of when you came in the foyer.
But who did that? You say Marilyn Opplinger?
I think Marilyn Opplinger was head of that committee, yeah, and they had all the name tags and.
There were several there that took care of it.
Let's give Marilyn Opplinger's maiden name, which of course is
Curtis.
Right, from Dick Curtis's daughter.
Correct.
Lives on Crestwood Avenue. See, the reason we know who these people are, but we have to identify them so that the person who's writing the history for the year 2014 will know who these people are. Marilyn Opplinger, Marilyn Curtis Opplinger, and she did what? She was at the greeting person.
We had a committee for the name tags, and it was identified your class, year on it, and your name, both married and maiden names. And we passed them out. You came in, and we had signs up there where you could get your respective classes. And they picked them up at the desk there, and then went on into the actual ballroom.
Did you have a program?
They went in after they bought a raffle ticket for a Wadsworth Afghan.
How much was
They saw me first. I was selling raffle tickets.
How much were they?
Oh, I think they were
$1 or 6.
$6 for $5.
Yeah.
$6 for $5.
Yeah.
The reason I asked that question is that way back, one of the programs we had here, and I forgot which one it was, we've had 100, what, 12, 15, something like that, 10 or 15. One of the programs, we talked about raffle tickets. And the person said they were fairly expensive. I think that we paid as much as a dime a piece for them or something like that. You know, of course, you know no one buys anything for a dime a piece anymore now. So that's why I wanted to hear that, because one of these days we'll be saying, "Wow, you could buy 5 raffle tickets or 6 raffle tickets for $5." That's now we pay $350 for them or whatever.
I don't think the winner went.
Who made the Afghan?
It's that Wadsworth Afghan that they,
with a throw, Wadsworth throw.
yeah.
Oh, the throw that you got.
Right.
And tell us where we get those and where we got those and who started those in Wadsworth and which florist had those.
I think.
Or was it a florist?
Picket Fence had
Picket
them.
Fence had them.
Yeah.
And describe it. What's it about?
Well,
My wife gets those for wedding gifts.
oh,
And they're
yeah,
wonderful
that's a
for
good
wedding gifts.
idea.
Oh, they love them. People love them.
Yeah, well, it has the school on it,
Has the
too.
school.
And that's one thing that we wanted. Although I think the one who won it, I don't think he went to Wadsworth School.
Do you remember who won it?
Gary Deem.
Gary Dean. And he was married to
Saltzman.
Yeah.
who?
Is it Sue?
I
Sue
know her
Saltzman?
just as well. Can't think of her first name.
Oh, it'll come to us.
Yeah.
We are at that age.
I know Saltzman, yeah. She can kill Alan for that. Can't think of her first name.
Carol Dean.
Carol.
Carol
Carol
Dean.
Saltzman Dean.
Carol Saltzman. Oh, because Sue didn't ring a bell with the Saltzmans. I mean, Carol Saltzman,
Sue.
yeah.
I knew it wasn't Sue.
Now then, that person won that. You had the dinner. Do you remember what you had for dinner that night? What was the fare?
It was a buffet.
Buffet. So
We had 3 choice of meats
Right.
and vegetables and dessert. And
We didn't have dessert.
there were no desserts?
No.
okay, that's right.
We forgot about it.
No, we went,
I don't remember.
no, there was no, well, there was fruit, yes, but we
Fruit
didn't
cup.
have a dessert as such because we chose the 3 meats instead or some such thing. We made the choice anyway.
You made the choice.
Well, we had
Yes.
limited funds.
Right. Now, did they have to pay for this, and how much did it cost if they did?
The price of the ticket was $25
For one person?
for one person. And that included one of the bevels, the program, and your admission to the,
In other words, we had husband and wife paying $50 to come to this.
correct.
That is one great deal of energy. That means that people really, really want this.
Yeah, it was a nice evening.
They really want this. They'll pay $25 to come to see their friend. Isn't that a tremendous attribute to have, that your friends are that important to you? But that's what Wadsworth is all about.
That's right.
Kenny, when we were growing up, and you're just a couple of years behind me in school, but when we were growing up, we knew almost everybody in Wadsworth.
That's correct.
And we knew everyone in the high school. I mean, I can go up and down, well, every one of the schools, actually. I can go up and down the classes ahead of me, behind me. I can name almost everybody, and so can you, because we didn't have that many people, and we all knew each other. What was the feeling about that when you had this class from 1950 to 60, when we had so many imports coming into Wadsworth? When we were in high school, we had only about 5,000 to 6,000 people in the city of Wadsworth. In 1960, we had twice that much. And they all came into that 10-year period. Did you feel that there were a lot of people who didn't know each other and didn't have that feeling? Or did you feel that they were beginning to be infected by this disease that we have of wanting to be friends with everybody? How did you feel about that?
I really felt that most everybody knew each other or knew a brother or sister or what. You could walk up to anybody and talk with them because there was some connection.
There was some connection?
There was, in some way. There was.
See, that is what is going to keep, one of the things that is going to keep, and it's so important we have this program today, one of the things that's going to keep Wadsworth as a small hometown thing is that the people. It doesn't make a bit of difference if you live in a telephone booth and there are 2 people in there, and if you don't know the other person's name and don't know anything about that person, you're strangers. But you can live within a confine of, say, for 15,000 people or 20,000 people, and Wadsworth is growing every day, and we hope that it grows nice and big and strong, but it's growing every day. We have 20 to 25,000 people. The way to keep those people together and to keep them so that we can know one another is to have this kind of an exercise, the reunion. Kenny, when you were in school, let's say, for instance, the late 40s and 50s, well, you graduated, what, 50? Yeah. In the late 40s and 50s, you probably knew every single teacher, too, didn't you?
That's right. That's correct.
And you probably remembered all of your teachers from your kindergarten days.
Well, I didn't go to kindergarten.
Well, I didn't either.
I didn't either.
They haven't invented it.
They didn't have it. They haven't.
No. But from first grade on, you can remember all of those teachers. It disturbs me that we don't have that kind of identification with our teachers anymore, too, because the teachers are an altar parent. When you were going, see, Marie, or Jeannie, your older sisters, Marie and Kathleen, are 5 and 3 years older than you, right?
My sister Marie is 4 years, and my sister Kate about 3.5.
3.5 years older. Now, you knew all of their friends,
right?
And they knew all of your friends,
right?
How about you? Did you know the friends from your sisters and so forth? And I'm sure that you did. And you had brothers and sisters all the way up the line. Did you? And you knew their friends.
Sure,
yeah.
sure.
And I bet you did too.
Well, you know, Caesar, we all went to the same school.
Yeah.
From grade school right on up through. You know, it was much closer. We were smaller classes. I knew all my brother's friends. And you just seemed to know everyone on each side of you.
And that is so important.
At the same building.
Where are we going from here with this? I mean, right now we have another one coming up.
In the year 2000.
In the year 2000. We'll see in the year 2000 we will probably, no, class of 48 still won't be included.
Oh, yes, they will.
Yes, you are.
Oh, really?
You are this time.
Oh, yes.
How do you include us this time?
Because the association now includes all classes.
You were finally shamed into it, weren't you?
Yes.
You were shamed into it. Tell us about what's going to happen in the future and how we're going to do that.
What we're going to do is pass out a flyer, I believe, that you're holding, that's an application to the association with an explanation at the bottom.
The flyer says what now? I haven't read it. I've just been holding it here because you told me to.
It's a membership application, and it's $20 per person for the annual membership dues. And this will go to fund the scholarship and operating expenses for the Alumni Association.
Okay, now, there is one error in here, Gloria. What is the error?
It says
Point to it.
Oh, WHS.
Well, it's Wadsworth High School.
Yes, we don't want the H in there, but we didn't reprint the paper yet.
We're on a low budget here.
Yes, that's true. We have to sell more of our,
That's right.
our pebbles here. The alumni, the word alumni means anyone who has been associated with the schools.
Right.
You don't have to have gone to high school here. You don't have to have graduated here. If you went to Wadsworth schools or taught here or had any connection with Wadsworth schools in any way, you can join the Alumni Association. Anyone else can join also as an associate.
Associate. Now, if I get one of these and I join up, what am I going to get for it?
The first year from January to the end of December of '98, you will get a charter membership card, and that'll only be issued to those that have joined in 1998. After that, you just get the association and the camaraderie that we've enjoyed.
Oh, it's not $20 a year then?
Yes, it is.
Yes,
Oh, so every year you pay $20 to belong to this organization.
Well, that's
Correct.
partly because of the scholarship, too.
Scholarship.
We have to keep building so we can start, hopefully, in the year 2000 to give scholarship.
Give scholarships. And what a wonderful thing to do, because, you know, colleges are very expensive now, or trade schools or whatever. Is it limited? Are the scholarships limited to the college only, or can the person get it for trade school?
Yes.
And that's wonderful, because, you know, one of the things that we're going to be completely devoid of within the next few years are auto mechanics. because they become so sophisticated. Automobiles are becoming so sophisticated that the only way that many people repair them is to throw parts away and put new ones in, and that's very, very expensive since they're all computerized. And sometimes we're going to have people who are going to know how to repair computers and how to repair all of these other kinds of things, because it's a waste of natural resources to do that. The other question I want to ask about the scholarship, do you have a scholarship committee, and how does that function, and who's on that?
That is incorporated with the general committee and the executive committee. The applicants that apply for the scholarship will be given to anybody that is on the committee, any paid member of the committee. They in turn will be screened, and the finalists will be given to the executive committee, which is this committee, and they also will be narrowed down and will decide on one or more applicants receiving this gift.
Are there any qualifications for a person receiving the scholarship, Alan?
They must graduate from Wadsworth.
They have to graduate from Wadsworth High School. What else?
That's the primary one. They must maintain a 2.5 grade average or better.
2.5 or better, okay.
And continue their education.
Then they have to continue their education.
Correct.
Now, what about the timeline? Does the person have to be an immediate graduate, or can a person apply for this if he happens to drop out of education for a year, say for instance, comes back when he's 20 years old? Can he?
As long as he is currently enrolled in one of the Wadsworth schools, a high school.
Oh, he has to be currently enrolled.
Correct.
So it does then mean that the person cannot graduate, drop out of existence for a year, then come back and get it. You have to be an enrollee of the Wadsworth High School at this time.
At that, we haven't encountered that per se, and we would take that into consideration.
Good point.
You will. I have been working on scholarship committees for, 40, 45 years, and anything that you haven't thought of
will come up.
Let me tell you. And, we probably ought to have someone on the committee who has had that kind of experience. And of course, I'm talking myself into a job that I don't want to understand. But you need to get a person who has been heavily involved, because the good public relations from a scholarship is phenomenal until you make a mistake. And then people begin asking questions. Well, he didn't do it for them, the heck with them, and we aren't going to have anything to do with that thing. The other question that I have regarding the scholarship is how much of a scholarship is it going to be? Does anyone have the answer? Kenny, do you have the answer to that?
Not at this point in time. All depends on how many funds we take in, correct?
Keep making those things, Gloria.
I intend to.
Because we need that money.
I intend.
What about the location? Does a person wants to go to the Akron Barber School? Is that okay?
Yes, sure.
That's all right. And the person wants to go to MIT, where or Columbia University, and I know this for a fact, where the tuition is $27,000. You don't care where he goes. You're going to give him a certain amount of money. It's not going to be based upon the amount of tuition that it's going to cost at that place. No. So you're going to have what is called finite tuition, which means that only that money which you have is what you're going to give. What if the person then flunks out? Are you going to get the money back?
We would request it. We don't know that that's going to come to fruition or not, but we would request that, because it's not fair to the next applicant to take away from the amount of funds.
It will come to fruition. There will be those who will flunk out, I'm telling you right now, and you will have a rough time getting it back, but it's a bad thing, unfortunately. The other question that I have about scholarships is one that you may not be able to answer at this time. Do you have any plans to have what is known as a legacy, which means that we will put this into the kitty, the First National Bank, or whatever they call it this week. What is it?
Huntington.
Huntington, whatever. You put it in the bank, and you let it build up to, say, for instance, $500,000, and then you use only the interest for that. Do you have any plans for that, or are you going to get it? Are you going to make Gloria sell?
We may not be around to see that.
Well, if you have a legacy like that, and if you have something like the 501c3, do you have a 501c3?
We're not familiar with that.
Okay, 501c3 means that you're nonprofit, and people can give you money and take it as a tax write-off. And we might be able to build this scholarship fund up. The other question that I have is one that you probably have already decided. What about the present Wadsworth High School scholarship committee that exists, are you working with them, or is that something separate from this?
Our plan was to talk to someone today after.
Okay, you do have someone you're going to be organizing that.
Yeah, we're just getting started.
And the last question regarding scholarships, do you have a very, very good attorney working with you on the scholarships?
We haven't got to that point yet either.
Yeah.
This is so new.
Probably a very good idea to have someone, because you cannot believe the amount of grief that you can get through if you don't have that. Now, we weren't planning this program to talk about that, but it's good that we do, because this is all part of the history right now. We are at this point a juncture in the alumni from Wadsworth High School saying we want to get together to have good fellowship and good cheer with one another, but we also want to do something for posterity, and that's what Wadsworth is all about. But we want to make sure that no one gets burned in the meantime. Let's go back quickly. We're going to run out of time here very soon if we don't get some other questions here. When you had this committee meeting in February of last year, how long did it take you to get the thing organized? Were you, what, 350 by August?
Mm-hmm. It was a year and a half.
Well, it was a year and a half. We met in 96.
96.
Okay. In other words, it was 96, and then 97 was your your first year, the last year.
Right.
Okay, fine. So you went a year and a half. How long did it take you to get that momentum going? Do you remember how long that took, Kenny?
That probably took 6 to 9 months when we started getting replies from the people that we mailed these to.
How many did you mail out, and who did the mailings?
They went to each class.
Did our own class.
Oh, each did your own class. In those days from 1950 through 1960, the classes were not nearly so big as they are right this very minute.
Right.
Some of them were 300.
Some were 300 already?
Some were big.
Wow.
They weren't, I mean, probably half of them.
Well, our graduating class had 115 people according to the rolls, but we can count only 111, but that's all right. And anyway, between 111 and 115. And I thought that was a very, very small class until I married my wife, who graduated from Brunswick. And there were only 52 in her classroom, because Brunswick was a little crossroads at the time. Right now, there are 18 more school buses in Brunswick than there were people in her graduating class.
Yeah. Well, you know, Jean thought her class was the smallest. I think the class of 55 was a class of 82.
86.
So we were smaller yet.
Well, you didn't have much writing to do then, Jean, for years, did you?
No.
You lucked out.
Very easy.
How many did you have in your class?
84 or 5.
Well, that's why you did your own. How many did you have then?
About 145.
That's a little bit worse. How about yours?
Well, I was in Gloria's, and I was thinking it was 82, but it's somewhere around
like
82,
that, yeah.
84. Yeah.
You can do that while you're drinking your coffee.
Yeah. And another
Well, we just about did.
Pardon?
We just about did.
Yeah.
Another surprising thing was how many have departed. We did pay, you know.
Out of 115 people, we lost 19 people already from our class. How many people? Do you remember how many people are gone from your class?
I think there's about 10.
Wow.
We kept track of this. It was something that just came up from the time that we started the idea of the reunion until the actual reunion day. We had lost about 1.5 people per month.
Wow.
Out of the entire group from.
I mean, they died on the.
Yes.
Oh my heavens.
Were killed. You know.
We had to refund a couple of checks.
That's something.
It's still right now. It's still maintaining that same amount. As time goes on, that will increase dramatically. But that's
yes, it will.
A dubious distinction there.
Yeah, sure. Oh, that's. I would have never given that a thought, that you would have lost 1.5 a month while you were doing this.
Yes.
Yeah. Let's go back to the inception here once again. This is so interesting to hear about this inception. Alan, describe your involvement in the Wadsworth schools while you were there, and then translate that into what caused you one night to wake up, oh God, we need to have a reunion. Describe that.
Well, I wasn't really active in school as far as extracurricular activities. I was too skinny to play football, and I wasn't a nerd. And after I got out of school, I guess I'm a slow learner, because after I got out of school, I realized the importance of education. And I don't want to see some of the kids that could make a difference in their life waste the time while they were in school, because we hear from the old fogies, our parents, that that's the best time of your life. You don't realize that until after you're out, and you can't go back and redo it or rechange it.
Nope, life is not a rehearsal.
That's right. It's one-time shot.
You can't go through it doing what you're supposed to do and then go back and do it the right way. That's right, Ron.
Right.
Jeannie, to describe your high school days, were you one of the front runners out there? And
no, I lived in the country, and it was I did not get involved in
not at all.
The girls' basketball and a lot of those things because we were just far enough out. Mother had to always. And see, I attended Central High School and graduated from there in the 9th grade up to the high school. So then my high school years were 10th, 11th, and 12th.
How about you, Gloria?
Same thing as Jean, because we lived in the country. Once you go home in a school bus, there you are.
That's it. You stay there. Same thing with me. How about you? You probably were out there.
I was a busybody in high school.
Yeah.
I had to laugh because when one of my granddaughters last year was the president of the senior class here at Wadsworth, Shauna Bowen, and was pretty active in high school and student council and class president and cheerleader. And I had quite a few people, when they found out who she was, make a big comparison there between Shauna and her grandmother.
Well, you were a cheerleader too.
Yeah,
cheerleader.
yeah.
Way back then.
Busy.
And how about Kenny?
Well, I participated in basketball, football, baseball. I was in the student council for 4 years. And of course, I love music, so I was in the Boys Glee Club, the choir, and used to love putting on our big spring performances that you well know about.
Very well so. I guess the point that I want to make here is that we have a lot of people in high school who probably would be voted first to go out there to bring everyone together, and then we have those who, well, maybe they'll do it, maybe they won't, but what's his name and what's her name, so forth, maybe. But look who is doing all of these things. The ones who, you lived in a farm, you weren't active because you're too skinny. I never had that problem. And the rest, we had, these are the kinds of people who have the good thoughts in their minds. And how wonderful it is of you, Alan, to say, we want to make sure that the young people today will know that these are the best times of their lives, and we have to give them that opportunity. So it's good that this group is going to be doing something like that. I'm so enthusiastic about it, and I hope that it can continue. In the inception part of it again, and I'm going to ask this question to Marilyn because she probably will remember all the details of it. What were the, if I say the wrong word, I'm going to get just crucified on this one, but I'm going to try it. What were the pettinesses, Marilyn, that came out that really irked you, because you are not a petty person?
You mean with this reunion? Well, there were a few things because we limited the years.
Okay. Yeah.
And I know we
that's very legitimate.
Carino.
That's very legitimate.
Well, the cutoff at 60 was the last graduating class from the high school, and that was pretty legitimate. But we just weren't sure what kind of a turnout we'd have. We were so limited on funds, and I know that did kind of separate the committee in a way too. Some wanted to include, some didn't want to, and it was just finally decided that we just could not, at least not at this time, include everyone. And so now with the Alumni Association, hopefully we can see a lot of the people that we knew in the classes before 1950, and that Caesar will be there at the next banquet.
God willing,
have a good time.
Right.
There were a few things that interfered with other class reunions that summer too.
Those were some of the problems.
Yeah.
What do you remember as being the frustrations in developing this committee, Gloria?
I honestly don't. I was never frustrated with it. It was just a matter of hammering out what the majority wanted or what we could do.
When you live with 5 sisters and a brother, you never get frustrated, right?
I think you learn to live with it. You learn to handle it, maybe.
And Jeannie, you lived with 2 other sisters. Were you frustrated with any of the kinds of things that were going on?
No, not at all.
See,
Alan handled it, and he always left it open, and we were able to have people willing to work on committees, and we had our meetings about once a month, and It ran real smooth.
Now, Alan, you were somewhat in charge of this, is that right?
Yes.
I mean,
That's who we got mad at. It was so easy to get mad at Alan, let him handle it.
well, get mad at Alan. I mean, you were in charge of it until you had the meeting, and then we knew who was in charge of it
Right.
at that point.
Right.
But what were some of the frustrations? What were some of the things that you thought to yourself, oh my heavens, why on earth did I ever start this?
There was an element of skepticism in there from the beginning. Some doubt, maybe some jealousies from the other classes that it would conflict with their year to get together. And we decided we'll have to let the chips fall where they may and go on with it. And as Kenny had mentioned, when it started coming together about between the 6th and 9th month, that we really started getting a head of steam build up, and the enthusiasm and everything started to generate. And you had mentioned about the electricity at the reunion. It was great. That's putting it mildly. When you get 350 people together and they voted overwhelmingly to become an association, that tells that the committee has done something right, and that Wadsworth has wanted this, and now it's coming into practice.
There's no question. There are some legacies that we have in Wadsworth, some traditions. One of them pretty well died out after our graduating class, and I'm not so sure that it might have been still extant when you were graduating, but we always sang the Battle Hymn of the Republic at the end of graduation. At our 50th anniversary, that's the first thing we did after the dinner. We renewed that one. Are there any kinds of things that you would like to see all of the Wadsworth people have as a single tradition? Has that been part of your planning at all?
It hadn't
Nothing at
occurred
all?
to me.
Except
That's a
buying,
good idea.
Except buying your.
That's true.
Except buying these things, right?
True.
But as a single tradition, could there be a traditional kind of a thing that would be imposed, not imposed, but say just generated, like singing the Battle Hymn of the Republic? What about the alma mater? Did you sing the alma mater?
Yes. Yes.
How many people knew it?
Quite a few.
It was pretty loud.
Yes.
We sang the alma mater after our 50th anniversary. At the 50th anniversary, there are those who had not been there for 50 years and had not sung the alma mater for 50 years. They knew every single
Yeah,
word.
it just comes back.
It just comes back to you. And we had the most beautiful harmony. Of course, we had a lot of good singers in our group. Leonard Hurst was there.
Yeah,
Billy
you were
Cumberland
the
was there.
best.
Oh, far from it.
We know your voice.
But we had some wonderful music. We sang the Battle Hymn of the Republic, and it brought tears to the eyes of all of the people there. I wonder if something like that could be, generated so that we could have those kinds of things. And then what else did we used to do in Wadsworth, which was so traditional that probably no one else did, besides kicking the rock on the corner of Highland and Broad?
Yes.
And I've heard that 14,000 times, but those of us who lived in the country didn't kick that rock.
No.
But is there anything else that we could possibly do that would give us that feeling of unity, that feeling of all being one person, that wherever we go, if you say one word, we know that we're all from Wadsworth High School?
Oh, we have a slogan.
What is what?
That's just our slogan. Keep the growling grizzly.
Keep the growling grizzly. Ours was something like, we dwell too low, those who dwell beneath the stars, or something like that. Peggy Gish, I think, wrote that.
Oh, that was for your class.
For our class. But do we have, will we have a Wadsworth alumni song? Do we have some musicians who would write an alumni song or something like
We haven't
that?
come to that.
We haven't thought
That's an idea.
Or to have someone to my wife was running for office here a few years ago, and two people from Medina County were running for office. All three of them were Brunswick baton twirlers. And had they all three won, they were going to do a little program with only one of them won. But they were going to do the baton twirling thing. Is there something that we could have, say, for instance, all the old cheerleaders to get up and cheer, or all the choir members, or something like that?
I think that'd be a good idea.
Whatever we can possibly do would be a wonderful thing to do. People, unfortunate thing that these hours go by so quickly, and this one is over, unfortunately for now. We need to bring out 3 or 4 wonderful things that have happened here today. First and foremost, someone had a germ, someone had a dream, and that dream then was perpetuated through a phone call. 2 or 3 people got together, and then that spread like the fires that spread throughout the grassy lands that are dry. And then from that, the fire that is spread and burns the old grass down, brand new grass comes up, and it's always green and it's always lush, because at least years ago in the farms, that's what we used to do. And the grass is green and lush. We do have a green and lush field now of wonderful people, of all of these people coming back. We need to continue it. And we are so grateful to this group and to those who helped, and certainly to you who are making those. Hold that up again, please. What do you call them again?
The Grizzly Bevel.
The Grizzly Bevel.
Mm-hmm.
So many of those, and you'll be getting some calls for those, because people will want to have one of those Grizzly Bevels. We want also to thank you for taking the time to come to talk about this, and not only to talk about this, but to begin to perpetuate this whole feeling of unanimity now that you have included the class of 1940.
Very good.
That makes us so. Thank you very much, people. We are beyond our time, so we're going to have to say goodbye at this point, and our greatest pleasure is in knowing that we have people like you in Wadsworth trying to help us and to bring us together once again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Caesar.